Great. Good morning. My name is Stefano. I'm a postdoc researcher at the Politecnico di Milano, which is Italy's largest technical university. We have 39,000 students, so pretty large. My role over there is a postdoc, which in Italy means you are a very, very temporary researcher. What I'm going to talk to you, what I'm going to talk about today is what is called by buzzword threat intelligence, which basically means trying to understand where the enemy wants to hit us before he hits us, which is something we have been doing with various degree of fallacy since 500 years before Christ. Because this is a quote from Sun Tzu, which I will not read aloud, because everybody in this room probably already knows it. The quote which says that if you know the enemy and know yourself, you're ready for battle. If you don't know either, you will lose your battle. This is the most quoted sentence in history probably, and the less understood in history as well. Because understanding the enemy is the key to react sensibly. And reacting sensibly is exactly what we usually fail to do. See notably counter-terrorism controls in airports. This is a notable way of failing sensible reaction. So, to get down to what the Americans would call lies, then lies, and statistics in an increasing order of lies, this is the first quoted sentence. I actually bring this up from a speech from a politician. I won't name the politician. It's not an Italian politician. Italian politicians do not even understand how to spell internet, so they wouldn't talk about asymmetric warfare. But it says, asymmetric warfare potential of cyberspace will lead to an increase in electronic warfare and cyberterrorism. True or false? God knows. It's been repeated a number of times, at least since 9/11, even before actually. And one day, discussing this in a panel with Richard Power, who is one of the editors of the Computer Security Institute in the United States, we were discussing this in a panel, and Richard came up with this very, very cool quote that I reuse with permission, which is that if we ever managed to get real-world terrorists to blow up computer networks instead of blowing up skyscrapers, then we have gone a huge step forward in combating terrorism, because networks usually have backups and skyscrapers usually don't. Which is not true, of course. It's a naive position. We all know that there are critical infrastructures that can be hit through the cyberspace. But still, what is notable here is that no one has data to either confirm or disconfirm that people are accumulating cyber warfare or cyber terrorism capabilities. We believe, we know that people could theoretically do cyber terrorism, but we don't have any indication that they have done so far. Someone here could answer, there's data. There's actually data about this, but it's classified. It's top secret. And my opinion is that it's TSBS, which stands for top secret bullshit. Going ahead with the lies and then lies, there's the FBI CSI report. Sorry, Richard. There is always, in all the FBI CSI reports, since the inception of the FBI CSI reports, there's a rising wave of internet crime. Somewhere in the report, there's this phrase. The problem is that here, reports are based on the respondent's knowledge. So we are asking people, how much do you think you were hit in the last year? And since one of the questions is, do you have an intrusion detection system and process in place? And most of the respondents say no. You can guess that I have high doubts on the realism of their assessment of damages, because they probably don't know how much damage they have suffered from cyber attacks. So here is a nice question which comes from Anton Chubakin, who is a nice observer of these kind of things. If there is always a rising wave of internet cybercrime, why do average losses for incident fall every year in the last 4 years in the FBI CSI report? There's a number of answers to this question. The real answer is, this thing is not statistically solid. Those figures are out of thin air. They have no meaning whatsoever. So, why is this true? Because the survey covers 5,000 members of the Computer Security Institute, which are not even representative of the American point of view, let alone of the worldwide point of view about cybercrime. And there's a response rate of 12%, so 600 out of 5,000. So you have 600 non-selected, non-statistically solid respondents out of 5,000 non-statistically solid persons who have been asked the questions. And upon this data, we build our knowledge of the enemy. And then there's my favorite quote, which has been mixed up and anonymized in order to avoid you to track down the clueless analyst who said this. But it's a number of analysts actually. If you look up in the internet, you will find a lot of sentences that run like, in July 2001, code red spreads to some huge integer of systems with even a small integer of hours, and the worldwide economic impact was estimated by someone, we don't get to know who, as some insane figure of billions of dollars. And SQL Slammer was even worse and faster. So, in 2001, in 2002, everybody was saying, we'll see a greater increase of speed and of number of worms. The internet will get wormier and wormier and wormier. And there were a lot of extremely good academic papers on the subject, war on worms, flash worms, whatever. Nothing of this ever incarnated, actually. We all thought that the internet would get wormier. I confess that I thought that the internet would get wormier. A lot of people I see in this room with their talks said that the internet would get wormier. Because the trend was clear, right? There was in 2001 Code Red Ninja, then in 2002 Slapper, then SQL Slammer, then Blaster, then Sasser, and then nothing more. I have an iDefense t-shirt which has all these events on the back, like the concert dates of rock bands. So I know that we all thought that there would be more dates. We even braced collectively for impact on a couple of vulnerabilities during the last years, because we said, oh my god, here it comes. It didn't come. So, is it just that we got better at defending networks? No, we didn't. What happened was that people figured out that infecting computers was less funny than infecting them and then selling the machine that you infected, because that generates money. So, we have a lot of bots around. When I was young, ages ago, the bots were things you used on the IRC if you were a loser and you had a lot of time to waste. You used bots to control IRC channels and to wage wars over IRC. Don't ask why I remember. We used to call the remote control Trojans zombies. We didn't call them bots. Today, bots and zombies have merged, and they are different. They have a lot of intelligent features. They have complex command and control infrastructures. There's people who specialize in actually hunting down these types of botnets because it's very difficult to do. So, tracking and understanding how these botnets work, and more, how and why they are operated, is a difficult research problem. It's not easy. You can do that manually if you're a very, very good botnet hunter, but we would prefer something more automatic than, you know, just resorting to Gedi Evron or someone of the same kind every time we need to track down a botnet. Another question, which is still open, for instance, why has no worm ever targeted the infrastructure with the possible exception of Wiki? Well, the usual explanation was because it's more difficult to infect and to propagate a worm across routers than it is to propagate a worm across usual hardware and software. This is not really true anymore. There's a lot of ways to run code on board of core infrastructure elements. Or you can simply use a traditional worm as the propagation vector and then a destructive payload against the routers. And there were a couple of windows of opportunity. During June 2003, when Blasty was propagating, there was also a Cisco IOS vulnerability which could be targeted. And during April 2004, when there was SASR propagating, there was another Cisco vulnerability at the same time. So, why the /bin/latents of the world, of the cyber world, were not targeting, greening and reaping our routers? Either there are no /bin/latents, which is highly unlikely, or they have better agendas than to tear down the internet infrastructures, because the internet is a giant money-generating, money-laundering machine, which is very useful to good guys and bad guys as well. So maybe the infrastructure is not at stake. So, summary, we don't know the enemy, we don't actually understand why what they are targeting and why they are targeting us. And the result is that every battle is a certain risk, in the word of Sun Tzu. Oh, by the way, I will be jumping through a couple of the slides, which are less important than the others, because this talk is taught for a longer time slot than I have, so don't worry if you see me jumping through. It's just something totally unimportant, which I filled in to fill a longer slot. You will get just the important parts of the talk. A great misconception is that observing attacks is equal to knowing attackers. There's a lot of projects that try to demonstrate that they are profiling or understanding attackers just looking at what they do. It's not like that. For one, profiling is an uncertain affair at best. And even good profilers of real criminal cases will tell you that it's more a matter of sound perception and some intelligent tricks than a matter of really getting a profile from the crime scene. In the digital world, it's even more difficult to actually profile attackers based on what they do. Your common run-of-the-mill script kiddie and your black hat hacker with a lot of money and a lot of knowledge, of course, will behave differently. But actually, they might do a couple of the same thing during a more elaborate attack. For instance, a very good skilled attacker could perform a lame attack against the target network just to create a jumping point and to leave people to people the perception that he is a lame attacker while he is not. So you cannot really look at that lame attack and draw the conclusion that he's a lame attacker. The need to understand not what attackers do, so how many machines they penetrate or how many bots they spread, but what they do and why they want to do that, is felt also at political levels. For instance, there's a EU commissioner, Viviane Reding, which is the Commissioner for Communications and Infrastructure of Telecommunications, who recently stressed that it's difficult for decision makers, namely her, to understand what to do about cybercrime.